Estamos en otra ponencia más de Todos por el Mar. Esta va a ser una combinación de ponencia inglés-español. Entonces vamos a hablar un poquito en inglés y un poquito en español, tratando de mediar ahí los idiomas, porque tenemos mucha gente de todas partes. Entonces, welcome everyone. This is a talk with Ken and Melodie, and we're going to do it like Spanish-English style, so we're going to translate and try to come back and forth with the languages, so everyone can understand. Bueno, pues bienvenidos. Ya son las 7 y pues... Hola Benja, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, buenas noches. Bienvenidos todas y todos. Perdónenos que estemos un poquito tarde, pero tuvimos un pequeño problema técnico que ya está resuelto para poder ver la presentación que nos va a dar Ken, con asistencia de Melodie. Y pues listos para otra gran ponencia del mar. Les recuerdo a todos que tenemos siempre los micrófonos apagados durante la presentación. Acabando la presentación, el que pida la mano es el primero que le damos el micrófono, se salta toda la cola, va a hacer sus preguntas y los que quieran pueden escribirlas ya sea por acá, en el chat de Zoom, para los que me están oyendo en Facebook, pueden hacer las preguntas por ahí y nosotros se las leeremos ya sea a Ken o a Melodie. Tanto Albert como yo estaremos ayudando en las traducciones. Bueno, you got everything, right, Ken?
Excuse me?
You got everything I said, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully it wasn't terrible.
All right. We are done with introductions.
Te quiero presentar a Pedro. Pedro es parte del panel, como siempre, aquí está con nosotros. Hola Pedro, ¿cómo estás?
¿Qué tal? Buenas tardes, bienvenidos a bordo Melodie.
Hola.
Bienvenida de regreso, Ken. Pleased to meet you. Vamos a ver qué tal está esta ponencia de hoy. Mucha gente estaba esperándola.
With further ado, please, Ken, can you give us a small introduction about yourself and what you do?
Sure. My name is Ken Kiefer. I'm an underwater photographer, and we are always trying to come up with new creations, and I really love the entire process of the creativity, but primarily underwater. I've given up land pictures, so if it's underwater, I'm in. And what I've got some pictures that I'm going to flip through at the end, maybe some videos. I'd like to hear a lot of questions about how I took stuff, why I took stuff, what was involved, what were the hardships, what were the fun things, and go from there. And every single time I've ever been around or worked with Melodie, we've had a blast.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Just to let you know, we accustomedly you go out and show all your pictures, and you can speak all you want. And then after everything's over, we can accept some questions and answer session after everything. We don't like to interrupt you, so you can go ahead and do everything, and we'll just control everything from there.
Okay. Ready to start?
Es que nos va a presentar toda su ponencia y al final, como siempre, vamos a hacer una sesión de preguntas y respuestas. Y también, bueno, pues nos platicó un poquito de qué hace Ken, que saca muchas fotografías, es un fotógrafo profesional. Entonces, please go ahead, Ken.
Go ahead. Okay, you can see this was a selfie I took in Cozumel. If nobody's around to take pictures of me, then sometimes I'll take pictures of myself.
Great. Click on your presentation.
Yeah, there it goes.
Okay, there you go.
This is one of my favorite. This is the picture that's behind me on the wall. It's a mural, like a car wrap that we put on a wall in my office. Because when I was a little kid, I've loved sharks since I was probably 5 years old. And I just did everything I could. I went to the library, I studied sharks. I've loved sharks my whole life. And I've said when I was little, if I ever take a picture of a great white that I like, I'm gonna make it into a mural. And so I did. And this is the picture. And besides, pretty much like I said, if it's in the water or underwater, I'm on board. This was a swimming pig in Bahamas, in Exuma. One of the hard things about shooting the pig was the fact that they're super fast. They try to come right into your face, and I was trying to get a split shot by you feed them fruit and vegetables and stuff, and getting them in the right spot was quite a trick. This is in a place called the Pit in Tulum, probably one of my favorite dives ever. I'm not a cave diver, I'm not a tech diver, but this spot is incredible. And if you look closely, Mel is the bottom one of those three on the picture.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience diving the pit with Ken because he has like an amazing eye to capture like all the environment that is around him. So, lo que digo es que esta foto la tomamos, bueno, la tomó Ken. Yo salgo ahí, soy una de las 3 personas que están buceando y la tomamos en el pit, probablemente uno de los cenotes más famosos de la Riviera Maya. Fue una experiencia increíble. Ken no es cave diver ni tech diver, pero es un fotógrafo súper intrépido. No, claro que este buceo está dentro de los parámetros del buceo recreativo. Sin embargo, se requiere un poco de sentimiento de aventura, aventarte y sumergirte en este tipo de cenotes que son como profundos, con entradas de luces increíbles. Y bueno, este fue el resultado de una aventura que hicimos en la Riviera Maya.
And hopefully we get to visit the pit again very soon.
Yes.
I was trying to figure out the sex of this crocodile, but it is impossible from visual. Actually, I'm just kidding. Normally I wouldn't be in this kind of position, but the crocodile had gotten a piece of the food, the lionfish we tease, and was headed over to the shallows to swallow it. And so I just laid down and let it swim over me. Another pig. A couple of dolphins. This is from Bimini in the Bahamas. And dolphins are an absolute challenge because of the sheer speed that they come by you. You have to really be ready and kind of have your settings on hand. On most of the things we shoot, sharks, crocodiles, you really do not want to be messing around with your settings. And I'm willing to share any settings anytime. There are no magical settings. Each situation, depending on where the sun is, where your subject is, what the background is like, and the speed will affect your settings. And so what you want to do is practice enough that over time you learn each situation where you kind of want to start so that you can quickly adjust your settings. You want to interpret?
Yeah. So, esta foto es de unos delfines que tomó Ken en Bimini, en las Bahamas. Y bueno, es una captura muy espectacular porque, como sabrán, los delfines son súper rápidos. Es muy difícil capturarlos en el mar, en una fotografía tan nítida y como en un ambiente tan perfecto, ¿no? Entonces, lo que comenta Ken respecto a esta foto es que no hay settings perfectos para tomar fotos submarinas. Se requiere adaptar respecto al área en la que estás tomando, al sujeto al que estás tomando, en este caso los delfines que son como bastantes veloces. Tienes que cambiar todo al instante, al momento, entonces eso requiere como una habilidad bastante importante de adaptarte a la circunstancia para poder lograr la captura perfecta en la fotografía.
All right, so we got next. One thing that I always try to tell new photographers is especially underwater, is to not focus on one thing. You should be looking up, down, because you never know exactly what you might miss. There were a lot of sharks around us at this point. We were at Cat Island in the Bahamas, and I had noticed one that was really interested in the bottom of the boat, and I just really liked the visual aspects that we could see with her doing that. So always look up, look down, even though they'll give you rules of thumb for photography. When you're underwater in general, you want to shoot up. But if you've got sharks around you, you've obviously got to keep your eye on every one of them. So you're constantly turning and looking. But if you see something that catches your eye, find a way to get the shot and create an image.
Where was this shot taken?
Cat Island in the Bahamas. Those are oceanic white tips.
Wow.
You would love to dive with them, Melody, with us. They're very like your buddy Crazy Eyes.
Okay.
We'll talk about Crazy Eyes later. It was a crocodile that was a good friend of Melody's. But oceanic white tips are very, very curious, and they're in your face quite a bit. You can see the nictitating membrane on this one, and that comes up when they're either feeding or they're near another animal to protect their eyes.
Wow, that's an incredible shot.
This is a great white shark that had just come up trying to get a piece of tuna bait off the back of the boat. And it creates, to me, an image of motion. Even though it's a single still picture, it conveys the motion just from the explosion of the water and the coming off the bottom of it. It seems like it's moving, but it's sitting still from the image.
Wow, incredible. Is this in Isla Guadalupe, Ken?
The what?
Guadalupe. Was this taken in Guadalupe Island?
Yes. I think, matter of fact, I think this was taken when you guys were on the boat close to us, just not on the same boat.
Definitely Mexico is amazing.
So much variety.
Like an adventure. That's an amazing shot.
This is for also, like the dolphins, this is from Bimini. During the winter, great hammerheads frequent the island, and it's the only place I know of that you can reliably swim with great hammerheads, and usually multiples at the same time. Hammerheads are probably my favorite shark, just from their motion, their views. There's so many different angles to them, and the way they interact. Anything on those you want to throw Spanish at?
Yeah.
I can back through them.
El tiburón martillo es como el favorito de Ken porque tiene muchos ángulos para fotografiar, y el ambiente en el que los encuentra en las Bahamas también es muy increíble. Entonces, pues nada. El comentario general respecto a la fotografía de tiburones es que es muy importante que cuando estás fotografiando tiburones, ustedes entre ellos, siempre tengas una mirada para todos lados. Voltea a ver el cielo, voltea a ver la superficie en este caso, a la arena, a tus dive buddies, arriba, abajo, izquierda, derecha, a donde puedas, porque donde menos lo imagines es donde vas a encontrar el shot y, o sea, la captura. Y también porque pues estar buceando entre tiburones pues es bastante intrépido, en especial con los white tips, entre pues otro tipo de especies. Entonces, sí es muy importante que ese como conocimiento del mar y esa experiencia de estar viendo hacia todos lados y poder obtener la captura que menos esperaste es muy gratificante. Ese es el comentario de Ken respecto a estas fotos de tiburones. Y esta foto fue tomada en Isla Guadalupe, en nuestro México hermoso. Y bueno, pues parece que yo la veo al menos y parece que sigue en movimiento. Es una foto increíble. Isla Guadalupe es un lugar precioso donde puedes literal bucear con tiburones blancos. Para los que no han ido a Isla Guadalupe o los que están interesados, es un lugar increíble. Y bueno, yo recuerdo la primera vez que vi tiburones blancos, quedé impactada de la elegancia de estos animales y de lo impactante que pueden ser lo intimidante también al mismo tiempo por su tamaño y su belleza. Entonces, bueno, este es un poco de los comentarios de Ken respecto a la fotografía de tiburones.
Just like I had mentioned previously, in underwater, you generally don't want to shoot straight down because the coral or the backdrop will be too busy and take away from your image. But sometimes you see something like this nurse shark just cruising over the empty, clean sand bottom, and it really caught my eye. And I like the smooth S-curve of the shark.
Beautiful.
This is Melodie's best friend, Crazy Eyes. It's a crocodile chinchorro that was younger and smaller, and the larger crocodiles would chase it off. So it would come in full speed looking like this most of the time we saw it. And it had really golden, sparkly eyes. So Melodie named him Crazy Eyes.
Sí, esta foto fue tomada en Banco Chinchorro. Banco Chinchorro es un atolón, reserva de la biosfera a entre 2 y 3 horas mar adentro de la costa de Xcalac. Y bueno, este cocodrilo era chiquito y muy intrépido, entonces lo llamamos Crazy Eyes, ojos locos, porque bueno, tenía unos ojos un poco que comunicaban mucho, pues. Y bueno, esta es una buena foto de Ken de este cocodrilo que está en Banco Chinchorro, México.
And one of my biggest themes in photography is adapt, because especially with Mother Nature, you never know exactly what you're going to get. You don't know what the sun's going to be like, clouds, rain, wind. You don't know what the visibility underwater. And in pictures, in some areas, especially Chinchorro, there can be a lot of silt. It's a really fine bottom. And so if you move or if the crocodile moves, it can stir stuff up. And a good solution, if the visibility, whether it's here or if you have bad visibility, I always like to get really close. So the closer you get, you can still get some clarity, even though the overall water conditions are not pristine. There's another great white from Guadalupe. And to me, she looks like a big giant smile. Like, hey, good morning. How are you guys doing? And I believe right after I took this picture, I might have slipped my head out of the cage and I might have had to duck back in pretty quick because she was coming really fast.
Esa es otra foto en Isla Guadalupe, esa no, la anterior. Isla Guadalupe de un Great White Shark, un tiburón blanco, y bueno, parece un tiburón feliz. Yo creo que sí, estaba feliz, no lo sabemos, pero definitivamente intimidante, independientemente de su sonrisa o de su tamaño. Isla Guadalupe. La próxima foto, next photo is...
This is one of the giant manta rays from Socorro. I can't say Revi, but I don't know how to say the long word. How do you say the long Revi? You know, Mel?
Revillagigedo.
Yeah, that. I just say Socorro or Revi. But once again, Mexico, just the variety of Mexico, it's amazing. This was at Roca Partida specifically. And those mantas love divers' bubbles, so a lot of times they'll cruise right over you. And I knew I wanted a silhouette shot, so we were there 2.5 days, and it was on the last half a day that one went right where I wanted it with the sunbeams coming down. I was pretty happy.
Esta foto fue tomada en Revillagigedo y lo que comenta Ken es que a las mantas les encantan las burbujas por debajo, entonces de repente se quedan buceando contigo, buceando arriba de ti para sentir esas burbujitas que llegan pues como a su pancita, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, una foto increíble de Revillagigedo en nuestro hermoso México. Muchas cosas por descubrir siendo buzos y más si te gusta la fotografía submarina.
Another oceanic from Cat Island. And I don't know what particular attributes certain individuals will have, like a posse. This one's got pilot fish and rainbow runners, and they most of the time stick with whatever shark they came in on. So I don't know if that means they're a good eater and they leave lots of scraps, but it's always, I always love when they've got the posses because it adds an extra element to the picture. And also, oceanics are pelagic. They're generally in over really deep water. They're open ocean sharks. And that's a reason that they're so curious, is because in the open ocean, if you see something, it's mostly a desert. And so if you see something, you got to investigate it because it might be edible. But right here, you can see a seamount below the oceanic, and it's very rare to see them over anything. So it adds to the image.
Nice. Beautiful. The next one is
More Roca Partida. And this manta, it just felt almost like a religious experience when it came up and hovered right in front of me. It was a stormy day. That's why it's kind of gray. And it came up from the depths and slowly flapped right in front of my camera. And it definitely wasn't camera shy.
You can say that definitely this manta was modeling for you, Ken.
For sure. She was trying to catch up to Mel.
So, en esta foto, Ken comenta que, the last one, que fue como muy increíble, casi un momento religioso cuando estaba con su cámara esperando que pasara algo y de repente llega esta manta nadando de la profundidad hacia la superficie y se queda literal flotando enfrente de él como si estuviera modelando para Ken Kiefer en ese precioso momento. La foto es un poco gris porque ese día estaba nublado y hubo tormenta, pero le da como un efecto muy dramático a la foto y pues creo que es una excelente composición.
Here we got another oceanic with a little bit of the posse. This is a blue shark from San Diego, and cloudy day, visibility wasn't good, but I wanted to incorporate the kind of greenish blue and then get as close as I could to these big eye, big nose blue shark. And she was kind of my girlfriend that day. She didn't go near many of the other snorkelers, but she hung out with me most of the day, which I love.
That's an incredible photo.
This is Kimber, my wife. A storm was rolling in when we were in Bimini. And even though the current, this is another theme. You've got to constantly, besides adapting, you've got to constantly work as a team. Because every single picture we took when we were trying to get this, the current was ripping from me towards her. So we would take a picture, and then we would have to swim all the way back against the current and then try it again, and then try it again. And eventually we got it right. But it nearly exhausted both of us.
Sí, esta foto la tomó Ken Kiefer junto con Kimber, que es su esposa. Y el comentario de esta foto es como muy importante y muy peculiar cuando estás haciendo modelaje submarino y cuando estás trabajando con un fotógrafo. Porque el trabajo en equipo es tan importante y en especial cuando las condiciones del mar o del buceo no se prestan para que todo esté perfecto, como cuando tomas fotos en un cenote, que todo es como el ambiente muy controlado. A veces cuando tomas fotos en el mar, la corriente es fuertísima y tú tienes que dar tu mejor pose y prácticamente parecer que estás, no sé, pasándola bruto, cuando a veces es difícil estar pasándola genial, nadando contra corriente y echando el último pulmón, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, esta foto es muy importante respecto a ese comentario porque la corriente en esa foto, en ese lugar particular, estaba muy fuerte y lograron esa fotografía over-under que le llaman. Y pues nada, ese es un poco de el español de esta foto.
This is just a starfish in Cozumel, and I like to work with black and white a lot. sometimes splash of color. To me, it just looks a little bit like surface of the moon.
Wow.
This was something strange. I did part of an underwater video for a rap video. That was really interesting. Here's more of the adapt theme, because a storm came through. Sherwood, we went to do a Sherwood product shoot, and a big storm came through, and we had about 10 foot of visibility in the Florida Keys, which is normally 100 foot of visibility. So we had to adapt and change. And it actually kind of works out because it makes their product pop a little more than if you had a beautiful reef behind you. Wasn't intended, but we made it work.
Entonces, estas dos últimas fotos las tomaron en los cayos de Florida y las condiciones, la visibilidad no era muy buena. Normalmente tienes una visibilidad de 100 pies y en estas fotos la visibilidad máxima para la captura que Ken quería era de aproximadamente 10, 15 pies. Pero el comentario es también bastante interesante porque las fotos salieron con un contraste como muy peculiar y como que resalta mucho la figura del sujeto modelando. Entonces, el comentario de esto es que hay que buscarle todas las oportunidades a la foto, aun y cuando las condiciones no son las mejores.
What? I'm just gonna go, I know I've got a lot of pictures of Mel. I need to find some. Crocodile. The only thing of note here is trying to get the strobes to the right spot was difficult. Hammerhead, hammerhead. Turtle from Cozumel, more dolphin. Crocodile in the sun rays. This was pure luck, and I wouldn't have got this shot if I hadn't practiced adapting and changing and knowing my underwater camera setting, because we were swimming with sharks in about 20 foot of water in Cat Island with the Oceanics, and all of a sudden out of the blue this marlin came flying up to about 50, 60 feet, which is a completely different settings, and it was only there for about 15, 20 seconds. So I saw it, I flipped the settings on my camera, I dove down, and I was able to get this. And at first I was just hoping to get proof of it, so that, because my friends wouldn't believe me that I saw it. And such a pretty fish. Crocodile in bad visibility. Get close. A great white from beneath. I always wanted to get a shot like that. It took probably 6 trips to go out of the way to luck into this situation. I like to work with sunballs, and one of the things I can get settings almost always with any of the sunballs, you want to have the tiniest opening, which is like f/18 or f/22, and a high frame rate. And the reason for that, if you don't, the sun will blind it will blind your sensor, and you'll just end up with a white image or no clarity. So being able to switch quickly to f/18 or f/22 is always a good thing to keep in your mind if you've got good sun rays and some animals or people swimming above you. And the difference here is a strobe lit the bottom of the shark on these 2 pictures, so you can see the details underneath. And with no strobes, you get no details on the bottom of the shark. You just get the sun rays and a silhouette. This was in Cayman Islands. It used to be a regular occurrence that silver sides would mass, millions of them in certain areas, on a shipwreck, and then in these swim-throughs. And it had slowed down for a while, and we ended up being there, and we got one dive with them, and it's an amazing sight because they look like Mercury cruising through the holes. And then when the tarpon come, they make perfect circles, or if a person, they make a perfect circle around them. It's just it's amazing, must see. It's a big robot I swam with.
Where was this photo taken, Ken?
What was the what?
Where was this photo taken?
This was in the NASA's Neutral Buoyancy Lab. A company hired me. They made this autonomous robot. It's a transformer. It starts out as a submarine, and it can get to a spot, for instance, to fix an underwater pipeline or a drilling rig without having to decompress people up and down. This robot can go down and can actually do some things on its own. It's got radar, LiDAR, sonar, and so when it gets to where it needs to be, it pops open and the arms and head come out. It's pretty cool. A little bit scary, like Terminator.
Esta foto, a Ken lo invitaron a tomar unas fotos por parte de la NASA de este robot que ellos utilizan para poder hacer composturas y demás de cosas que hay bajo el agua como registros de agua, cosas de petróleo, lo que sea, ¿no? Cualquier tipo de infraestructura que necesiten como arreglar, mandan ese tipo de robots para evitar que la gente haga buceos muy profundos o técnicos, digamos, a resolver problemas que a lo mejor un robot puede ayudar y evitar todo el proceso de descompresión y todo el proceso o el riesgo que puede representar a un buzo llegar a tales profundidades. Entonces, este fue un proyecto bastante interesante al que invitaron a Ken y bueno, también está interesante saber que existe este tipo de tecnología en la que ya nosotros como buzos comerciales ya tenemos que bajar a profundidades mayores y mandan robots por parte de la NASA.
That's the NBL. Just in case you've never heard of it, it's NASA trains their astronauts because they've got a mock-up of the International Space Station, and so they take the astronauts down where they can be like almost like zero gravity. But
en este lugar es donde entrenan a los astronautas para que puedan estar a gravedad cero, que la verdad bucear es casi pues muy similar a estar en gravedad cero y como lo hacen los astronautas. Entonces es un proyecto bastante interesante y como muy relacionado con el tema de buceo y la fotografía submarina. Muy padre proyecto, Ken.
I'm gonna speed up. Hopefully we've got a lot more model stuff now. There's varieties of modeling. There's like, this is a friend of mine, Liz, and she's a shark feeder. She doesn't feel comfortable doing glamour type, wear a dress or make images like that, but she's very good with the sharks. So stick her on the bait box, surround her with 50 sharks, she's perfectly at home, holding her breath, relaxing, which is pretty incredible to me. I was on scuba, and a lot of times I prefer to do the same thing that the models are doing. For instance, if I'm Mel in the saute and she's going to be in the cold water, I don't put on a wetsuit and scuba gear. I try to do the same things. Sometimes I can't hold my breath as long, or I can't go up and down, stuff like that. But in general, I try to put myself in their situation so I know what they're feeling. These are all, anytime we can add a little background that's a shark or a cenote or a crocodile, I think it helps create, because it expands the image, in my opinion. Especially if that thing scares most people, it gives them a different perspective on it and makes them think. And if you can create an image that makes people either say wow or think or change their mind, then it really makes me happy. These were in Cozumel, and it was probably one of the best safety stops I ever had, because we were just doing a safety stop and the Eagle Ray decided to come pay us a visit.
Wow. Esta foto la tomó Ken, la pasada, la tomó Ken en Cozumel durante una parada de seguridad después de un buceo muy interesante, y por de la nada te empezaron a llegar unos Eagle Rays, unas rayas águila, y se quedaron con ellos durante el periodo de parada de seguridad. Y pues Ken alcanzó a tomar esas fotos muy increíbles.
Here's modeling with crocodile. The most important thing in stuff like this is never the setting, it's the safety team. It's the entire team. I couldn't do this by myself. The model couldn't do it by themselves. It takes an entire team. I have to be working with the model, and the safety team has to be keeping all of us safe and aware of what's going on. Even if there's not a crocodile or a shark, it's still, you're underwater without air, depending on the depth. There are a lot of things that you have to coordinate on to be safe.
Si quieres explicar un poquito de lo que dijo Mel.
Sí, ahorita vieron unas fotos de Kiefer modelando con los cocodrilos. Y lo que comenta Ken respecto a esa foto es muy importante, dado que muchas veces cuando estamos intentando lograr una foto en la que integra a algún animal o algún tipo de fauna que representa o que pudiese representar algún tipo de riesgo, es muy importante considerar que todo ese trabajo se hace por medio de un team. Se organiza todo un team de trabajo. A veces hay 10 personas involucradas en la foto cuando únicamente ves una sola modelo frente a la cámara y el fotógrafo, ¿no? Entonces, hay un equipo de trabajo bastante amplio que todos están buscando salvaguardar la seguridad de tanto la modelo como el buzo y para lograr como esta expresión de arte.
One of the most amazing things to me with Mel and my wife modeling underwater is their ability to have natural face. Because if you can ever take any camera or GoPro and look at your own face underwater, we all look like either a blowfish or panicky or squinty-eyed. It's super hard. I can hold my breath as long as Kimber. I can never relax my face. Mel, they look like we want to see, like good, sexy, and that their body is relaxed, their face is relaxed. Water's jetting up their nose the entire time, and they're in an unfamiliar environment. They may be cold, they're starved for air, and look at this.
Sí, eso que comenta Ken es muy importante porque cuando como modelo intentas hacer modelaje bajo el agua, lo primero que quieres comunicar es la naturaleza de estar ahí. Entonces, por ende, tú como modelo te quieres ver lo más natural y lo más tranquila y lo más como en tu medio posible. Entonces, lo que comenta Ken es que muchas veces cuando intenta fotografiar a alguien, sale con cara de que se la están pasando mal, que les falta el aire o que se están ahogando. Y ese es un verdadero reto del modelaje submarino. Estar realmente con cara de que lo estás disfrutando cuando a veces las condiciones no son las mejores, porque a veces está, por ejemplo, el cenote helado. O sea, yo me meto a bucear a los cenotes y a las cuevas en dry suit o en un neopreno de 7 milímetros, pero a veces me meto así en un vestidito chiquitito, muriéndome de frío y poniendo la mejor cara que pude haber puesto para poder lograr la foto, que la verdad, Ken es un maestro de tomar fotos bajo el agua y en tema de modelaje. Entonces hicimos un gran trabajo. También a veces es como bien impactante, porque yo, por ejemplo, me meto así en vestido, cero dry suit, cero neopreno, y Ken lo que hace es ponerse un traje de baño, una t-shirt y meterse al mar o meterse al agua. Y le digo, ¿por qué tú no te pones un neopreno? Sí, o sea, yo soy la modelo, tú no tienes que pasar frío. Y dice, no, la modelo y el fotógrafo es un trabajo en equipo y cuando tú te empiezas a congelar, probablemente yo también y no me voy a quedar esperando que tú aguantes más frío que yo. Entonces, es como un estira y afloja y una comunicación, una dinámica bastante interesante que, bueno, se logran resultados como estos. La verdad, yo siempre me quedo sorprendida de lo que una sola foto a veces puede transmitir. Yo, por ejemplo, ahí me acuerdo que tenía frío, no estaba segura si la posición estaba perfecta, pero estaba intentando dar mi mejor ser. Sin embargo, ya después que la veo impresa o que la veo de manera digital, me trae una serie de memorias, pero también una serie de paz y una tranquilidad, y me hace como conectar con la naturaleza por medio de la fotografía sin siquiera estar dentro del agua en este momento. Entonces, simplemente es una expresión de arte que las cuales me encanta participar, y en este caso Ken es un artista de la captura del modelaje submarino. Por ahí tenemos un par de más fotos, les vamos a enseñar un poquito más, pero bueno, más o menos ese es como mi paréntesis al respecto.
While I'm concerned with things like angles, lighting, like in this picture, I was trying to get a reflection and the light was only there for a few minutes. We had a cloudy day. The light was hitting the mangroves in the exact right way. I'm worried about those things. Mel and Kimber, Mel is more natural at it. Kimber had to work really hard. Mel, from the minute we stuck her in the water, she looked like she was looking at me in the water. I mean, in the air, which is really amazing. Here's just some of the things she's thinking about while we're doing this. We drop down, it's cold. She has to get in position. She has to make sure the dress is covering the things that we want and then spreading out the way we want. She has to get her hair in the right way, her face, keep her body position, and then I'll be giving her other instructions. Make sure your arm's not coming out toward me so the fisheye makes it look big. Make sure this isn't happening. So she takes all of that in. We go under and she can't breathe and she's doing all those things at the same time. I'm always amazed with all of my models. I love the work that they put in because it makes it a true team effort.
Sí, definitivamente eso que comenta Ken es muy increíble porque estamos en superficie. Ken ve la composición de la foto, por dónde entra la luz, qué es lo que está como enfocándose, qué es lo que él está esperando en la foto, y me dirige y me dice, me gustaría a lo mejor más o menos hacer una foto en la que te das horizontal. Tú busca la manera que te sientas cómoda y hazlo. Pero es una serie como de acciones previas a llevar a cabo en lo que me da a lo mejor un minuto de apnea dentro del agua, o el tiempo que sea necesario estar dentro del agua, pero conceptualizando todas esas instrucciones previas en cada momento que intentamos lograr la fotografía. Entonces es una serie de momentos en los que hay que adaptarse constantemente a lo que el fotógrafo quiere capturar y a lo que el ambiente te puede ofrecer. A veces está nublado, a veces está soleado, a veces tiene las dos en cosa de 10 minutos. Entonces te tienes que adaptar, tienes que estar al pendiente y pues nada, eso es un muy buen trabajo en equipo y es muy importante esa clase de comunicación en la fotografía submarina de modelaje.
Shark action. This actually makes me think of anytime we go visit Javier and Mel and we dive with Yucatan Dive or Ecstasy or any of the awesome places that they run, the variety, not only in Mexico, but just in the Yucatan Peninsula and the dives they do. You can, in the same weekend, see whale sharks, cenotes, crocodiles, amazing reefs, tarpon. There's so many things. I love it there. Here's a different cenote. And not just cenote, like there's cenotes of every type. It's great to see all the different backgrounds and the different, where the light's coming in, what's underneath. It's every time we go to any cenote with Mel, it's like opening Christmas presents.
Esa foto la tomamos en un cenote muy famoso, también muy cerca de Tulum. La verdad, muchas veces llevas cosas como para el photoshoot y no estás seguro cómo se van a ver bajo el agua. También dependiendo el ambiente en general, si hay luz, si está soleado, si está nublado, lo que puedes encontrar dentro del cenote es muy increíble. Entonces hay veces que la cosa más simple del mundo captura lo mejor de la fotografía y con ayuda de Ken, pues, y la dirección sobre la modelo de lo que espera capturar es muy increíble. Mucha gente también piensa que las mejores fotos son yendo lo más profundo posible y que el buzo tiene que estar en tanque, pero no, la mayoría de las fotos que hemos tomado, al menos estas que nos está enseñando Ken, son literal cerca de la superficie y en apnea.
This image of Mel was on the first day that we talked her into modeling. I think she's wearing a long t-shirt or some kind of night dress. I don't know exactly what it is, but she makes it look gorgeous. And she just took to it like a duck to water. She was a natural. In English, what are some of the things you were thinking the first time that we did this with you?
Esta foto, de hecho, me lo está recordando Ken, fue una de que probablemente la primera sesión de modelaje submarino que tuve en mi vida. Y comenta Ken que la verdad me veo como muy natural, muy relajada. No sé, yo solo hice mi mejor esfuerzo y ese fue el resultado. Y creo que es algo que me encanta y que seguiré haciendo cuando se pueda.
So what are some of your thoughts, Mel?
About
doing it, about the first time that we talked you into the modeling, like did you have fears? What did you think as we were doing it and when we were done?
Yeah, definitely. I remember that I wasn't like very into free diving, and probably recently before that or after that, I took like my first free diving course. So I was kind of hesitant that I wasn't sure if I was able to do or to perform like correctly. But you guys believed in me, and this is the result, and it was super fun, and I really liked it. So we continued doing it, and there are more pictures that you guys can see.
We always need more and more, right?
Yes.
Also, these were at Cristalino, and we happened to hit it at a good time when the light was hitting the mangroves, and so we wanted to maximize that. And Mel, half the time I'll just turn her loose, say, hey, give me some good poses.
Sometimes algunas veces en este tipo de fotos solo te tienes que ir moviendo, y yo la verdad lo siento como si estuviera bailando. Siento que es como una manera también de expresarme bajo el agua y mostrar como ese lado hasta cierto punto medio salvaje que no muestras en tu vida cotidiana, sino nada más danzar y ser parte de como literal meterte en el papel de estar dentro de la naturaleza y solo ser y fluir como el agua.
And in this picture, I told her to flare her hair, be dramatic, and a danger they run into, they can't see, so they could kick the rocks. There's all kinds of, if you do it in the ocean, you end up getting stung by, a fire coral sticking off or something like that, plus the water up the nose. So they go through a lot of hardships when they do this.
Sí, algunas veces, de hecho, cuando hacemos este tipo de fotografía, pues lo haces sin visor, y lo haces en el mar, lo haces en los cenotes, y dependiendo del tipo de ambiente en el que te encuentres, no puedes ver. Literal, estás bajo el agua y ves completamente todo borroso, y lo único que puedes hacer es literal tocar un poquito a lo mejor la piedra para saber dónde estás ubicada, pero es serio. Entonces, a veces si haces un movimiento equivocado te puedes lastimar, te puedes raspar, te puedes cortar, puedes pisar donde no debías. En el mar puedes encontrarte con un coral de fuego o cosas que no sabes que están ahí porque literal sin visor no puedes ver claramente en ese tipo de ambientes. Entonces también es como un poquito de, ahí me veo por ejemplo en esa foto que estoy viendo al fotógrafo, realmente no lo veía, o sea, sabía que estaba ahí porque veía una mancha, pero no es porque pudiera yo comunicarme con él o debajo del agua me estuviera dirigiendo. Contrario a eso, cuando buceas, cuando modelas haciendo como scuba diving, pues es mucho más fácil la comunicación, ¿no?
Another thing to change it up sometimes is to do some split shots so you can see it, especially when you've got a good background. You don't want to do, we don't do split shots in my pool because who wants to see my backyard fence? But if you're at a cool cenote with cliffs and trees and stuff like that, you can create some drama. Even things as mundane as snorkeling, Mel can make look good. We just took these, we probably spent, what, 5 minutes snorkeling around?
Yeah.
Just trying to get some cool stuff.
Sí, algunas veces se trata de encontrar como algo diferente o hacer algo sencillo, pero comunicando con la mirada, por ejemplo, en este tipo de fotos, haciendo snorkel, haciendo a lo mejor apnea o buceando. Esa soy yo, la del lado derecho, la del lado izquierdo es Kimber. Estábamos en un cenote. No me acuerdo ahorita el nombre, perdón. Pero la verdad, en ese tipo de fotos, como traes todo el equipo, no son como las fotos cuando estás haciendo freediving de modelaje, sino tienes que comunicar mucho con la mirada, tienes que como comunicar mucho con la pose. Obviamente buscar que tu posición sea buena cuando estás buceando y pues nada, esa foto está muy, muy padre.
Here's a little further back in the cenote, back where I get super scared. And Javier and Mel are awesome. This is Scalac. Right at the beginning of an amazing tarpon dive, there's this great coral head and then a little channel down into the tarpon. Anyone who ever gets the chance has to go see this. It's a top 10 dive.
Definitely. Esta foto la tomó Ken en la entrada a La Poza, que es un punto de buceo muy famoso en Xcalac, donde hay es como un bowl, ¿cómo se puede decir? Es un área donde los tarpons o los sábalos en español se juntan y empiezan a nadar ahí en círculos de una manera impresionante. Son unos peces gigantescos, o sea, a veces de mi tamaño, y son cero tímidos, entonces te quedan viendo nada al lado de ti y crea una atmósfera muy interesante. Ahí yo llevaba mi camarita junto con Kimber para pues lograr capturar algo interesante. Probablemente ahorita vamos a ver unas fotos de los sábalos, los que les estoy comentando. Son museos muy interesantes.
Also, if you get a chance to do this dive, I suggest you take 2 beautiful ladies like this. It even makes it better.
Exactly.
This, I think, was one of the first time underwater for you, Mel. Is that right?
Yes. This is en esta foto estoy usando el primer vestido y primera vez haciendo modelaje bajo el agua. Este cenote, estamos en Car Wash y como les comentaba hace ratito, muchas de esas fotos se tomaron en superficie o muy bajito porque queríamos buscar el reflejo de la persona con el espejo de agua. Entonces, fue bastante interesante como lograr este tipo de capturas porque era mi primera vez, que ya tenía mucha experiencia fotografiando personas bajo el agua y para mí era como, no estaba segura si me iba a ir bien, pero siempre hay que darle una oportunidad a las cosas nuevas y esta fue una gran oportunidad. Logramos ese tipo de resultados. Ahí, por ejemplo, estoy como intentando voltear a ver Ken, como que estoy bien, estaba metiendo todo el agua por la nariz. Yo hice clavados mucho tiempo, entonces más o menos lo sé controlar, pero yo no era apneísta y entonces fui desarrollando ese tipo ahora sí que de skills y de características para desenvolverme bien debajo del agua.
See, how amazing is Mel right at the first time? Look at the body position and then the sexy look she's given right off the bat. Any normal human gets panicky like in that situation because I guarantee in that position, she's got water jetting in her nose, up in her sinuses, and she's just handling it like a champ.
Yeah, exactly like that.
More from the same, from Car Wash, like a ballerina.
Yeah, just dancing underwater, bailando bajo el agua, un poco.
Mel, when we arrived at the shack at Chinchorro, she did not want to do this.
No.
But we showed her what we were doing. She saw how her safety team was working, and she got the confidence to do it and did some amazing things with the crocodiles. Yeah, I want to know, I guess both in Spanish and English, how your mind went from, no, I'm not doing this, to, well, I guess I'll try it, and what you thought afterwards.
Yeah, well, that was like a super intense trip. I was kind of part of the team, like as a staff, and I wanted to go just scuba diving in Chinchorro, and it was super cool and fun. But Ken was there and was planning to shoot Kimber alongside the croc. And I was like, what? Are you crazy? With no mask? On salt water? With your eyes open? It's like, no. That, first of all, it's gonna burn your eyes. Second of all, that's kind of scary. And third, like, I'm not sure. But then there's like the part of the great communication with the photographer and with other people that has done that. And there's like a lot of research and a great safety team. So it's really amazing. Lo que estoy diciendo en inglés es que en esta foto especialmente y particularmente, me acuerdo que mi plan de ese viaje en Chinchorro era simplemente ir a bucear y estar pasándola como bien, pero bajo ningún escenario había considerado modelar junto con los cocodrilos. Ken ya tenía eso en su agenda porque iba a modelar con Kimber y le iba a tomar fotos a Kimber y me invitaron a modelar al lado del cocodrilo y yo dije, no, a ver cómo, agua salada con los ojos abiertos, me va a arder hasta la garganta. No, gracias. Segundo, cocodrilos, prefiero los tiburones, ¿no? Y tercero, bueno, pues ahí me tienen. Me convencieron, lo hicimos, fue una experiencia increíble. Esto obviamente se ve que yo estoy con el cocodrilo, pero hay un equipo muy grande de seguridad alrededor de nosotros y un gran equipo de trabajo que hizo todo esto posible. Claro que también aquí estamos jugando mucho con las perspectivas y el ángulo y la cámara. No estoy literal al lado del cocodrilo, pero es una experiencia muy increíble y de mucho respeto hacia esos animales.
Okay, well, let me take this moment to tell you my favorite saying that Mel has given me. And it is, let me think about it. I thought about it. No. I love when she says that. We say it all the time.
Exactly. It's like, I thought about it. No. So, yeah, this is another photo. Also, we are here playing with perspectives. Esta foto también fue ahí tomada en Chinchorro. Parece que estoy muy cerca del cocodrilo, pero también estamos jugando un poquito con las perspectivas. Yo la verdad ahí en esa foto no veía casi nada porque la visibilidad pues es agua salada y aparte había un poco de arena, entonces es un poquito complejo ver profundidades y movimiento. Pero bueno, ahí en esa foto me veo yo solita con el cocodrilo, está aquí pues frente a la foto y alrededor de todos nosotros hay un equipo de seguridad bastante grande que están cuidando la seguridad primero que nada y que tanto el cocodrilo esté como tranquilo y en su ambiente y nosotros en el mismo. Claro, hay un briefing, hay como una serie de seguimientos que tenemos que tener para poder estar en el mar con ellos. Y siempre y cuando se ven a cabo todo ese tipo de cosas, pues se logra este tipo de captura con mucho arte y mucha pasión por parte de Ken Kiefer. Y la nuestra, y la mía. Otra versión de esa foto.
I don't remember the name of this cenote, but this was also on the first day that we shot Mel. Yeah. And I don't know what she calls this pose, but I really like it.
Sí, esa foto, no me acuerdo en dónde fue porque ya tiene un poquito, pero me acuerdo que el agua estaba helada y yo, bueno, 5 minutos y me salgo. Claro que estuve ahí como más de una hora, hora y media, entre arriba y abajo con Ken y Kimber y con Javier tomando estas fotos y la verdad logramos unas fotos y unas capturas bastante interesantes. Y es increíble porque siento que todo se ve más bonito bajo el agua, todo en general. Tanto los modelos como cuando un buzo o quien sea, todo el mundo se ve mucho más bonito bajo el agua. No sé si eso lo digo yo porque a mí me encanta estar en el mar y me encantan los cenotes, me encanta todo lo que es estar en el agua, pero esa foto fue en Icteja, en 2 ojos. Gracias, Javier, por comentarlo. Y nada, bueno, denle una oportunidad a la fotografía submarina y llévense su cámara cada vez que puedan y van a ver a lo que me refiero. Estar bajo el agua mejora todo.
Hey, Mel. Mel, can you hear me? This is Kimber.
Hi, Kimber.
Hi. Why don't you tell them a little bit about like the difference in you modeling in the saltwater with the predator versus the freshwater, and the weight and your body control and that stuff.
Yeah, that's a really interesting comment. Esta foto, por ejemplo, la tomó Ken en Xcalac, en el punto de buceo que se llama La Poza. Es un lugar increíble donde están los sábalos. Y como podrán ver, ahí la captura es como un poquito más abierta. En lo que queremos mostrar es como el sujeto en el ambiente y no precisamente la persona modelando. Entonces, este tipo como de versatilidad de lograr una buena pose y verte bien y como ser y pertenecer al ambiente en el que está fotografiando es bastante interesante e importante y diferente a cuando estás modelando al lado de un predador alfa o cuando estás en un cenote en agua súper fría, pero que sabes que no tienes ningún tipo de riesgo más que tu persona dando tu mejor pose y buscando cómo regular el volumen de aire en tus pulmones para poder lograr la profundidad deseada para poder tener la captura ideal. Que eso probablemente es uno de los retos más importantes cuando estás modelando bajo el agua. Tener bien claro en qué posición quieres estar y a qué profundidad quieres llegar para poder lograr la captura. Por ejemplo, si quieres algo más profundo y no traes peso porque estás modelando algo en específico, pues sacas mucho como el aire de tus pulmones y te quedas con poquito y haces como un trabajo de apnea bastante interesante. Pero cuando lo que quieres es estar cerca de la superficie y mantenerte como en un punto medio neutral para poder lograr la foto, entonces tienes que meterle un poquito más aire a tus pulmones e irlo sacando poco a poco, como si estuvieras buceando, pero con tus propios pulmones para poder tener como la profundidad adecuada, lo cual es bastante complicado. Y encima de eso, lograr verte súper tranquila y como súper bien y súper relajada. Entonces, bueno, es algo más o menos de lo que comentaba Kimber y Ken respecto a las diferencias de estar buceando en diferentes ambientes y con diferentes fines.
That was definitely a good point by Cameron. With the variances in the buoyancy, saltwater, freshwater, it's just another of the things you've got to plan for.
Yeah.
When you're deciding to do this, it's a big difference from going in a 4-foot swimming pool, duck down, take a picture, or go 60 feet down in salt water, or go where there's other extraneous things to worry about. If you're worried about sharks, if you're worried about getting stung, you can't flap your hands. Like there are colors you shouldn't wear with some of the crocodiles. You shouldn't move fast when you're modeling because the fast action is what their prey does and what catches their eye. So it's just another thing you've got to plan for and go over extensively so that you do everything safely.
Yep.
And this picture is La Poza, which is back at the coral picture where Mel had the camera. It leads into this, which is just stunning dive. Hundreds of giant tarpon. And I've been diving for over 20 years. And I've seen tarpon, usually single or a pair. And one time at night, I saw 6 or 7 in the Cayman Islands. And so when they were telling me that there were 100, I was thinking, yeah, BS. I really thought they were like exaggerating. Maybe there were going to be 8, 10 tarpon or something. And so when you go in and you see a never-ending stream of tarpon, it is mind-blowing.
Definitely.
Silver side. That, a lot of times, if you're taking pictures, whether it's a model or whether it's good to have something that people understand the size of, because without Kimber in the shot, it's a manta. With Kimber in the shot, you see exactly how big this manta is. It is huge. And so perspective, like Mel was talking about, where things are can give you perspective, but also if you get something in the shot, it could show you that that's either a giant octopus or a little baby tiny octopus, where you wouldn't know with the octopus alone. This is how my buddy wanted to test his dome, I guess, because this shark wanted to come in. You can see the reflection on his dome, and anytime I get something like that, I like it. Here's my friend got eaten by a whale shark. Not really. She just, this is a perspective. She was exactly on the other side of it, and I just lined it up, and it really, I mean, it looks like she got swallowed by the whale shark, but she's fine. She was on the other side.
I'm glad your buddy is fine.
If you ever get the chance, this is at Roca Partida. If you ever get the chance with the dolphins, my buddy Charlie, he lives somewhere, Cabo, somewhere down there. He moves around. He's a little crazy, so he started swimming circles, and the dolphins started twirling with him, and they stuck around a little while. So if you're just kind of boring chasing them, trying to take a picture, they usually leave pretty quick, but because he was a little crazy, they hung out a little longer.
Sí, esto que comenta Ken es bastante interesante. Cuando ves animales bajo el agua, por ejemplo, los delfines, empiezas a comportarte como ellos y a nadar como en círculos como ellos. Ellos como que intentan, no sé cómo decirlo bien en español, pero interactúan contigo de la misma manera en la que se sienten cómodos. Entonces, si tú empiezas a actuar como ellos se quedan más tiempo por ahí contigo y son oportunidades, además de súper gratificantes e increíbles, pues de buenas capturas de fotografía.
This is a more of a technique than it doesn't have anything with the background. What I did in this case for you photographers, I took 2 Ikelite strobes and I put them on remote triggers, and they are triggered when the strobes on my camera go off. So I put them on full power, aiming them at a blank white wall on the back of my swimming pool. This was taken at about midnight or 11 p.m. So we were underwater, and my strobes lit Kimber how I wanted with a minimal light, and then the strobes that fired off the trigger blew the back of the pool out. So it looks like, for instance, if you were taking something similar on land, you could just use a white backdrop. Well, the white backdrop alone wasn't enough because you'll see the texture of the pool and then the surface of the water in the night outside. So I blasted it just to create a different effect. And this is from some covers over my strobes. They're made for fluorescing corals, and we just tried it with some neon stuff in the pool. One thing I would always tell any photographer is experiment, because you'll have some failure, but that's how you find something different. You don't want to do exactly what I do. You don't want to do exactly what Mel does. You don't want to. It's good to start doing stuff like that and to listen. That's how I learned everything. But I taught myself by learning settings and just see what they do and learning. And then Kimber comes up with great ideas. Mel comes up with great ideas. It's always good to listen to everyone and come up. That makes it more of a team effort. This Spider-Man, I shot it because a friend of mine, he had some kind of Iron Man costume. I said, hey, can you get that underwater? But it had electronics. So he couldn't. He said, but I have a Spider-Man that will. And so we did it. had no idea how it was going to turn out, but it became one of my more popular images. Matter of fact, I think Javier has it on his kid's wall, one of these. Some maternity, some couples, pretty much anything you can think of, you can probably find a way to adapt it to underwater. And that's what we love. We love creating. We like innovation. And I think we're towards where we could get some questions. What do you think, Mel?
Yep, we can run into some questions. And
Great pictures, Ken. I'm the photographer on the panel here, so it's amazing.
Thank you.
I have already heard the first question is about makeup. Do you use waterproof makeup, Mel, or do you not go natural?
I normally go natural. Maybe I put something in my lips, but all is like
Mel, in Spanish, please.
Sí. La verdad evitamos cualquier tipo de contaminación, por ejemplo, en los cenotes y en el mar que pudiera como causar algún daño. Por ejemplo, nosotros somos súper claros en el que no debemos usar repelente cuando nos metemos al mar, no debemos usar pantallas solares, sunscreens o bronceadores que no sean reef safe o que no sean de ingredientes naturales. Y lo mismo con el maquillaje. La verdad es que, como les decía, todo bajo el agua se ve mucho mejor. Es innecesario ponerte como 20,000 cosas para verte bien como modelando. Si acaso me pongo yo algo en los labios que sea de ingredientes naturales para darle un poquito de tono más rojito, porque son de los tonos que más se pierden cuando estás bajo el agua. Y nada, siempre y cuando no sea algo invasivo o de ingredientes no naturales que puedan estar en contacto, por ejemplo, tomando como base los bronceadores y los bloqueadores que son seguros para los arrecifes y el ambiente en el que estés intentando modelar. Pero eso sí es una pregunta muy importante y sí es muy importante leer las etiquetas de los productos que te estás poniendo, principalmente si vas a ir al mar o a los cenotes.
Ok, gracias, Mel. Aquí hay otra pregunta de Facebook. Dice... Shaila Natal dice, Ramos dice, para el modelaje con anterioridad, ¿deciden qué poses quieren o son improvisadas? And for Ken, do you plan the shoot or is it everything as you go and it happens as it goes?
A combination of both. We plan as much as we can, and we have ideas, and then those usually how we start, other things will branch off. For instance, like poses and backgrounds, like what we had thought may work great. Look to the side and there's something over there that makes a better image with the way the light's coming, or Kimber does. And one of the things that both Kimber and Mel hate the most is I'll say, that looked great, do it again. And they're like, what? I don't know what I just did. And so hopefully, usually if they've done that and there's something that I almost want, but with a twist, I'll show them the back of the camera and we can try to recreate it. But sometimes when they're freestyling, you either get it or you don't. And some things are hard to replicate, but we usually have a plan and then we just modify it as we go.
Yep.
Melodie.
Sí, normalmente, por ejemplo, en una ida típica de un cenote para tomar fotos de modelaje, lo que normalmente pasa es que Ken se mete, hace como una especie de scouting, hace como una nadada de reconocimiento a ver qué lugares se ven interesantes para fotografiar, ya sea por la entrada de luz, ya sea porque hay manglar, ya sea porque hay unas piedras padres. Entonces, él encuentra ciertos lugares que por la luz y todo lo anterior le gustan y dice, bueno, vamos a meternos aquí y ahora a mí me da mucha libertad como de movimiento y me dice, a ver, aquí haz algo. Y yo, ¿cómo que haz algo? De que sí, bueno, pues ponte guapa, ¿no? Vamos a modela. Entonces ahí me meto y empiezo a hacer como un poco de danza bajo el agua y esperando que salga algo padre. Salgo a superficie a tomar aire y le pregunto cómo va, si le gusta o no, y empezamos a entablar un poco de comunicación entre lo que a él le gustaría ver y lo que yo estoy haciendo, y pues básicamente ese es la dinámica.
And there is a question here: is if in open water, do you recommend using filters? Optical filters.
Do I recommend using what?
Optical filters.
I've never used an optical filter. As far as I've used filters over the lights to change colors and stuff. And if I'm at depth, I most of the time use strobes, unless we're pretty shallow where the sunlight is good enough. But even then, I'll usually use a strobe to eliminate shadows, so that you can set the power of your strobes so that you don't have harsh shadows on the side of someone's face or under their leg or something. But I would say mostly I use strobes more than filters, personally.
Okay, let me just translate quickly. Homero, para tu pregunta, él nunca ha usado filtros ópticos. Normalmente usa filtros en los flashes y no en la cámara. Eso es un resumen de tu respuesta. Vas, Alberto.
Ok. Esto es para Mel. Pregunta, ¿cuánto tiempo aguanta la respiración para la foto que sea tomada? Y si quiero modelar, ¿me invitan? And for Ken, he's asking if how long can she withstand the water without breathing on the water? And if you can invite him to model as well. It's from Facebook.
Yeah. Varía un poco de las fotos que tomamos, va acorde también al fotógrafo, y como los dos estamos en apnea, puedo a lo mejor yo quedarme abajo ahí 2 minutos, pero si el fotógrafo no se queda 2 minutos, entonces no tiene sentido. Entonces, más bien lo que coordinamos mucho es, bajamos, en el momento en el que bajamos a la profundidad a la que queremos llegar, empezamos como el modelaje y el shoot, y luego el fotógrafo hace una señal y vamos para arriba para que exista esa comunicación. Cuando no nos vemos, simplemente subes cuando necesitas tomar aire, y de la misma manera el fotógrafo. Normalmente estás coordinado y a lo mejor no ves muy claramente las señales del fotógrafo o sus ojos cuando no traes visor, pero lo que sí haces es estar al pendiente del fotógrafo y él de ti. Entonces, si por algún momento quieres salir a la superficie, él se va a ir detrás de ti, y si por alguna razón viceversa, él se tiene que subir a la superficie y hacer algún ajuste de la cámara o lo que sea, pues tú te vas detrás de él. Entonces, es más, no que tanto tiempo puedes estar bajo el agua sin respiración o con una sola respiración, sino la comunicación con tu fotógrafo y el objetivo de la foto. También se puede estar buceando en lugares un poco más profundos con la ayuda de un tanque, y te proporcionan aire para poder estar a cierta profundidad y en cierto ambiente, pero eso ya es un poco modelaje un poquito más complejo, que por cierto Kimber hace mucho. Kimber, la esposa de Ken, y con ciertas precauciones y buzos de seguridad que te apoyan para llevar a cabo ese tipo de experiencias.
Mel, me imagino que la siguiente pregunta es para ti. Está en inglés, ahora en inglés, pero si la contestas en español, por favor. I understood that models do not use any weight in the fashion style image. Could you share some tips to control model position and depth?
Yep, definitely. Sometimes we don't use, en español, ¿verdad?
Sí, mejor.
Sí.
Algunas veces no. De hecho, yo, por ejemplo, todas las veces que he modelado con vestidos, nunca me he puesto peso porque no quiero que se vea o que arruine como la toma o la foto. Y eso lo controlas mucho con tu respiración. Entonces, lo que comentaba hace ratito es que, por ejemplo, estás en superficie y si quieres tomar una foto muy cerquita de la superficie, vas sacando el aire de tus pulmones, pero dejando cierta cantidad suficiente que te permita estar a cierta profundidad sin moverte. Muy similar a cuando estás con un tanque de buceo que respiras y exhalas para mantener tu flotabilidad de manera adecuada, ¿no? Entonces, es muy importante eso, lograr esa clase de experiencia con tus pulmones. No es sencillo, se requiere un poco de trabajo y se requiere un poquito de experiencia y de intentar y practicar, pero una vez que lo logras, entiendes que a veces, por ejemplo, me meto sin llenar mis pulmones por completo, sino nada más un poquito, una pequeña bocanada de aire que me permite llegar a cierta superficie y lo que me ayude mi tiempo, el tiempo que mi cuerpo requiera para metabolizarlo y volver a sacar el CO2 y volver a tener otro respiro de aire. Entonces, según la profundidad a la que quieres llegar, es como la cantidad de peso. No sé si me expliqué, pero más o menos.
Sí, bueno. Okay. This is for Ken. Lucy Diaz. Hi. Have you protection on your work? Do you have, I think it's copyright or whatever. I'm not sure what she's asking.
Yes. Yes. Nowadays you have to, just because there's so many people that will, it's difficult to even go after them, but the fact, if you have copyright on the images, then you can go after somebody if they try to crop out your watermark or whatever. But copyright is an unfortunate need in today's society.
Okay, dice, la pregunta es que si protege de alguna manera sus fotografías. Y dice que sí, que no las pueden copiar. Y que pues, desafortunadamente en estas épocas la gente trata de copiarlas y pues, también tiene sus derechos de autor. Otro más tengo aquí en Facebook. Dice, Natalie Ramos, ¿ha hecho fotografía con niños o bebés? Have you ever done photography with kids or with babies?
I've done maternities with a baby inside. I've done kids, probably eight years old. Have we shot smaller? Yeah. I've shot a pretty good variety of kids. Kids are either amazing or horrible at it.
It's really amazing.
Que sí, que ha tratado que bebés dentro de la panza de las mamás. Y dice que niños desde 8 o hasta más chicos que pueden ser o muy cooperativos o un desastre. Bueno, tenemos una pregunta también para los dos. We have another question for both of you. Natalie Ramos dice, ¿qué lugar les falta de fotografiar y qué animal les falta por hacer? No sé si quieres traducir tú, Mel.
Híjole, a mí me falta viajar por todo el mundo, me falta viajar más. Me encantaría hacer modelaje a lo mejor con equipo de buceo y todo, pero en Antártica o en un lugar con hielo. Me encanta la idea de los ambientes todos blancos y el sujeto ahí enfrente, entonces, híjole, eso me encantaría. Definitivamente me gustaría modelar con Ken, con tiburones en las Bahamas, probablemente hammerheads, tiburón martillo estaría muy increíble. Y no, bueno, yo creo que cualquier experiencia submarina, cualquier experiencia bajo el agua, en los N cantidades de cenotes que hay aquí en la Riviera Maya, no nos acabamos las oportunidades de crear un poco de arte, entonces me encantaría lo que sea que represente conjunción, fotografía, modelaje y agua. No sé si tú quieres comentar algo, Ken.
What?
The question was, where do you want to go, like shooting next, and what's like the other type of animal or animal that you want to shoot with?
Well, my dream animal is a killer whale, an orca. And someday I hope to see an orca and a narwhal. But Mel and I have a plan that I can't say anything about because I don't want someone to steal my idea. Hopefully we can do it next month. But I love all kind of bigger animals, usually predators, but anything turtle. I would love to somehow work a model with a turtle, but it's hard because they're usually just shooting off the side or doing their own thing. but Orca is number one.
Definitely.
Ken, we have a question here about settings. If you can help Pepe here. When you have some backlit photos that you showed, it's kind of assuming you have a low ISO and big aperture. So can you tell us a little bit about it?
When you said athlete, do you mean the swimmers, the swim team? Is that? You said athlete, right?
Which image she was talking about? The animals pictures? Yes,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
For the sharks and the crocodiles and stuff. It's yes, especially if shooting shallow, my ISO is always at the minimum. And then as you move down, I may bump it up to 320. The lowest or the highest, whatever the ISO that I've ever had was probably 640 in the ocean. But usually if we're somewhere shallow, I want as crisp of an image as I can get with the least amount of noise. So I have low ISO, and I'll usually first set my shutter speed depending on what we're shooting. If we're shooting a crocodile that is mostly sitting still with a model that's moving real slow, I'll set a slower shutter speed, for instance, 1/125 or 1/100, and then play with the my f-stop to try to decide where the light is for that particular moment. If we're shooting something that's fast, like if I'm shooting a crocodile biting something or a shark zooming by, then I'll start as maximum. And on mine, I have a Canon, so 1/200 is my maximum that I can shutter speed with my strobe, and then I'll play with the aperture afterwards. But I generally want to have a big enough aperture to get the animal's eye first, which is where I'm usually trying to focus, and then get as much of the animal as I can.
Okay. Christian is asking if you ever done workshops for amateur photographers. He would love to go to a workshop with you. Before,
I've talked with iClight, one of my sponsors, and some others about doing a workshop, and then this crazy disease hit, and so a whole lot of plans are out the window. But I've been in discussions, just we haven't made one work yet.
Okay. And Mel, regarding what the sets of questions about positions and how do you, without weights, they are still asking, Elsie is asking, thanks. In the sequence of the previous question regarding depth, the answer was completely clear. Regarding the position, from my experience, the model tends to rotate and lose the desired position. How do you control it?
Well, that's kind of complex, right, Ken? I think
yes.
Like your subject, in this case, the model, must feel comfortable being in the water, comfortable. Because, for example, the other day I got asked by, not Ken, a photographer that is not like very into underwater photography, but he wanted to take some photos of an underwater model underwater. And he was like, I got this model, but she didn't know how to swim. And I was like, what? So what was the result of that? I'm going to translate into Spanish. Entonces, lo que preguntan es, muchas veces se entendió la respuesta respecto a cómo mantener la profundidad y cómo manejar el aire, pero no la respuesta respecto a cómo mantener la posición. Y eso es algo muy peculiar y muy importante de la modelo o el sujeto al que quieres fotografiar. Bajo el agua es muy importante que el sujeto se sienta cómodo bajo el agua, que se sienta, pues, que sepa nadar para empezar, que se sienta natural y que quiera como tener las ganas de experimentar bajo el agua. I'm wondering, Ken, if you had like previous experiences where the model doesn't feel like very comfortable on the water and the result isn't like that cool because you cannot communicate exactly what you want, but also the model doesn't get exactly what you need for the right capture. So I don't know if you want to say something about that.
I have some things to say. One thing regarding when he was saying that the model rotates, I prefer to always be ready and to capture a couple of images in a rotation or a movement. You know, Mel, like I like kind of a real slow dance with the modeling versus a static position. I don't want an exact position usually. I like that when the model moves and then we find what works and then we try to stay in that area of that's what I was talking about earlier when I show, hey Mel, can you do this again? And they hate that because they were just free flowing. But I think if you try to do an exact position and hold it, especially underwater, you're not gonna look natural, and you'll look tense, and trying to hold the position. It's better to be a little slow motion. I like to call it slow motion. Do everything in slow motion, and we'll get something in between. As far as models that are very uncomfortable, I've shot several maternity that almost couldn't swim. And what you have to do is what I would do in the case would get to the bottom of the pool and wait. They would just jump in and splash in, and in 3 seconds I had to take a picture as fast as I could. And we did that repeatedly for hours until they got comfortable enough to relax their face with Kimber's help, and then we're able to get something. I don't want to jinx myself. I haven't been skunked, but there are definitely more challenges. That's why we try to tell anyone that's going to model with us to practice first in a bathtub, in a something. Just get over that initial splash, because everyone gets a little better. If we shoot somebody for 4 hours, the 4th hour is always better than the 1st hour. So why can't they knock out the first couple hours at their house and then come shoot?
Yeah, ese es un comentario muy importante por parte de Ken, porque cuando estás bajo el agua y cuando lo estás haciendo en apnea y cuando estás modelando, lo que quieres hacer es como dar lo mejor de ti en un solo respiro y buscar como la posición adecuada en un solo respiro. Y a veces eso es muy difícil, y para el fotógrafo es todavía más complejo poder capturar lo mejor de la modelo si te estás moviendo muy rápido. Entonces, bajo el agua, cuando estás modelando, todo debe ser como más en slow motion. Si vas a mover el brazo, lo mueves de manera como un poco más tranquila. Si estás moviendo el cuerpo, das una pose y te vas moviendo poco a poco. A lo mejor rotas, pero vas rotando despacito, lo cual habla mucho de tu control, tanto de la respiración como de tus posiciones. Pero cuando se está empezando en eso, lo principal y lo ideal es hacerlo lo más lento posible para dar tiempo al fotógrafo de capturar lo que se pueda en esa instancia, y también a la modelo de que lo haga con tranquilidad y con tranquilidad, fluyendo como el agua.
Okay. Tengo otra pregunta más de Facebook. Dice, ¿cuánto es lo más profundo que han llegado en apnea a hacer fotografías? ¿Y cuánto duras tú haciendo en apnea?
Ken, which is the deepest you have ever done photo shooting? And also, how's like your longest breath in order to take photos underwater?
Both of you.
The deepest that we've shot models was probably 90 to 100 feet. And the problems you encounter there are just the length of time that you can stay. So you don't have a time for a lot of areas or a lot of poses when you're down at 100 feet, because you only have around 20 minutes or so on air. And as far as breath hold, Mel can hold her breath way longer than I can. Usually if we're shooting at 90 feet, I'm on air and the model's on air. So the model will take air, the safety diver will swim away, they'll post for however long they're comfortable, and then they'll signal and the safety diver will bring them air. Mel, she can hold her breath probably 2-3 times longer than I can.
How long can you hold, Mel?
I'm not sure right now, but probably like I don't know, more like 1 minute, 2 minutes, something like that. Depends, but also it's like if you are if you are moving, so you, it, like basic apnea is depends if you are static or you are swimming, right? So it depends. It depends.
The other thing
But
about that is if Mel's holding her breath and she blows all her air out, it makes it a whole lot harder, you know, if she's going to the bottom or depending on her buoyancy.
I want to interject something on that comment. That's like everyone's number one question for underwater modeling. How long can you hold your breath? And that's not always the important thing. I think, for one, if you're using scuba air, you don't want to hold your breath a long time anyway. But it's just about giving the photographer some time to get some good shots. So you never want to we're never trying to hold our breath as long as we possibly can. It's more about giving the photographer some good shots, and maybe even if you have the ability to come up and communicate what's working, what's not working, kind of reset yourself, because you do, like y'all were talking about earlier, you get turned around or sideways or upside down or out of the background. So it's not really more about, because that probably intimidates maybe some models that want to try it. But I'm not a freediver either, but it's more about just giving the photographer a little bit of time to get what he needs and not worried about how long you hold your breath. I agree. As long as the model and you are on the same page. So even if you can go down for 20 seconds, if you're ready, if the photographer's ready, 20 seconds is plenty of time to get a lot of images. You don't need 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And then you could discuss it or come up with codes. We've got some weird grunts we do underwater if I need her to stop something. Yeah, have some hand signals if you can't come up for air before you go down. Like safety's always first. So make sure you have some forms of communication.
Sí, ese es un gran punto el de Ken y Kimber al respecto de muchas veces no es cuánto tiempo puedes aguantar bajo el agua con un solo respiro, sino la calidad del tiempo que pasas bajo el agua. Entonces, a veces pueden ser 20 segundos, pero 20 segundos, como comenta Ken, son más que suficientes para tener a lo mejor la captura que buscaron todo el día. Entonces, a veces no se requiere que estés bajo el agua mucho tiempo, sino que hayan planificado muy bien esa inmersión para saber cuál es el objetivo y de dónde viene la luz, hacia dónde tienes que voltear, cuál es como tu mejor lado, cómo se te ven mejor los brazos, todo eso lo conceptualices y ya sean 10 segundos, 15 segundos, 30 segundos bajo el agua, sean como buscando el mejor resultado del trabajo en equipo. Thank you, Kimber, Ken.
Two questions for you, Ken. The first one, somebody here is asking if you sell your pictures.
I do sell my pictures. I've sold to magazines. I sell prints. Usually I sell metal prints because I have a place local. I've sold stuff internationally. What I usually do then is have them print it there. So yes.
And now a more interesting question for you, Ken, is if you can please tell us what are the materials of the dresses, when do they cling to the body, and when do they float about the body?
Kimber has experimented with we would go to, I don't know in Mexico what to call them, but we have thrift shops or dollar stores or resale shops. If there's anything where you can find a dress for $10 or $5, if she sees it, she'll buy it. We've got a rack in our garage that's bigger than her normal closet full of underwater dresses. So tulle, I don't know how you spell it, but tulle is a really good flowy material. Satiny type stuff will cling. There's some materials, some cottons, especially if they're multi-layer, will hold bubbles in them. So they're horrible because they'll float up, or the ties may accept air, and so they'll float up. And some of them you can go under and push the air out of them so that they'll work, and some you can't. It's just something you kind of learn. But tulle is almost always good. and what's the, like a more polyester nylon stuff will generally kind of stay where you put it. So some of the fabrics, you can kind of almost pose them for a second and they'll slowly drift, and then the satiny stuff will cling. And so you definitely have to kind of know that so that you get what you want versus the opposite.
I have an interjection on this because probably he hates material and wardrobe, but as a model, it's a pretty big component to the photography as far as the backgrounds you're shooting in. So when we travel, I don't always know what backgrounds we're going to be in, colors, things like that. So I have to bring a lot of dresses, and we already have like 8 suitcases. So it's a pretty big stressor as a model, because I do think that's a key component in photography. I think Mel can agree with that.
I don't hate the material. I hate her asking me 700 times, do you like this one or this one? Like, we don't have room in the suitcase. How are we going to get there?
But to get top-notch images, wardrobe is a key component in material, colors, fitting the background that you're shooting in. So that is a big stressor.
Kimber, of course, it was a joke, and the question was not for him.
I know. I know. He answered it pretty lengthy.
Yeah, now we're gonna ask Mel about settings in the camera, okay?
And she knows that.
She's a photographer also.
She can answer that.
But I have never modeled.
But he hears a lot about the material and the dresses.
Yes.
700 times, as we hear.
Yes.
I have a personal question. We have like a lot of how do you call this? Like we give stuff out to, I don't know, the best picture. Kids give us their drawings, so we prize them with photos, maybe a calendar, maybe something. And the best fan, we give them something as well. I wanted to know if you can give us something so we can give out to, well, the biggest fan or kids that draw something.
I have t-shirts, stickers, maybe some small images, but how do I get them to Mexico? Do I just bring it when I come to see Mel?
Yeah, we can ship them from here.
Yeah, no problem. Nada más, déjame decirlo en español. Nosotros aquí tenemos varios concursos, los niños que están haciendo los dibujos y también el fan más destacado, el que más nos ayuda. Y le estoy preguntando a Ken que si nos puede darle algún tipo de fotografía o algo de él, ¿no? Para dar a los primeros lugares.
Claro. ¿No? Yo creo que sí se puede hacer algo así, alguna dinámica. I think, Ken, we can do I don't know, like play some games with Todos por el Mar and the people who participate in their lives, and maybe give them something that may be interesting in terms of photography or something. We can just discuss it and then see what we can just agree on. That will be cool.
Okay, and we'll see how many things I can fit in the suitcase after Kimber gets through with her wardrobe.
Exactly.
maybe like a signed picture or something. That would be very good.
Yeah, I've got some smaller images that on metal that work well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good.
Okay. Ken, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
What is the purpose of your remote strobes that you did in the picture in the pool?
I used them to white out the background to eliminate the surface of the
okay,
pool.
So
kind of like I just wanted a pure blinding white background.
Okay, so they are pointed to the outside, not to the model, right?
Right. My strobes on my camera were aimed at the model, and the other strobes were shot on the side at the white background.
My connection was not that good when you explained that.
And I've used them also to do a silhouette. So I put the remote strobe facing right behind the model, and then they trigger and I shoot my strobe to the side so it doesn't light the model and to get a silhouette.
And then you have a picture with a sister in color and the background is black and white. You did that in post?
I couldn't hear. Sorry, I had a cat making a bunch of noise. What was that again?
One of your pictures is a sister in color and the background is black and white. So you did that in post-processing?
I've done it some. If it's with a model, I usually put a black background, and I've tried several things. I've tried cotton ones, and the cotton ones will last maybe three times before they fade too much in the chlorine. And then I've used, I got a big roll of black plastic at Home Depot, and then it floats, but it's a roll that's really long. And so if you get enough black weights, you can weight it in the pool. And then I pull the model away from the background and then shoot them with my strobes. And so everything in the background's black. And then the models, if you're talking about the starfish, I did that in post-processing.
In post-processing, okay.
Right. I made it black and white, and then I went back in and put the color back just to the starfish.
Okay.
Okay. Dr. Omar, who's also a speaker here in Todos por el Mar, is asking this question. He says, is there any risk of overexpansion of the lungs when you do all this underwater photography and you take the tank out and you have to blow bubbles and how do you do it so they don't blow the bubbles or for the risk of lung expansion? That's a very good question. Thank you, doctor.
There's always a risk, but when we're shooting at depth off scuba tank, they're static. So you don't necessarily have to blow bubbles when you're sitting still. I don't ever have them model by holding their breath and ascending. Like I don't ever have them float up. I don't ever have them. So they're usually on the ground or on a ship or something where they're static. And the ones that I won't do it with anyone that hasn't been diving for a long time and is at least, for instance, Kimber's a dive master. I used to be an instructor, so they know the risk. They also know what to do if, for instance, something did cause them to shoot up. They would know that she would start blowing bubbles at that point. And the safety diver, we have safety divers with air to the side or behind, usually two, and then one above also, so that if somehow her weight dropped or something and she ascended, they could catch her, grab her. And I'm usually close enough, I shoot pretty close most of the time, that I could grab her and shove the rag in her mouth. But we absolutely don't take unnecessary risks.
Okay. Let me quick translation. Le pregunté a Ken cómo le hacen para sacar las fotos aguantando el aire abajo del agua, porque no se debe de aguantar el aire, se debe de sacar burbujitas todo el tiempo. Dice que si se mantiene firme, no sube, no baja, pues pueden aguantar un poco el aire, y aparte dice que es un riesgo que toma la persona que lo está haciendo y sabe cómo hacerlo también y sabe los riesgos que están tomando y también que tienen un equipo atrás que si necesita aire o cualquier cosa también le da aire, y si por cualquier razón tiene que subir a la superficie, empieza a soltar burbujas o se siente también con expansión, empieza a soltar burbujas. Okay. Gracias al doctor Omar. Vas, Benja.
One more question, Ken. When you do your photo shoots, you are on like a private service provider, right? There are no other people there that are waiting on the boat or something like that.
Most of the time. Sometimes if we've been with someone and it's a shallow dive and the dive master will take off. If we've got a safety diver, we'll hire another safety diver so that we can go to the side while other people are doing their own thing. I've done it both ways, but with private, it's obviously then everything's geared toward doing the shoot. We don't ever just go on a dive and then swim over to the side and start taking regulators out. I mean, we wouldn't do that to an organization ever. We always, we discuss everything we're doing with everyone involved.
Okay. Yeah, I also see by the lighting of the sun and things like that, you go at the specific hour you want to shoot, right?
Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Albert?
¿Tienes alguna otra más?
No.
Pero yo sí tengo aquí. Yo sigo teniendo. I have a lot of questions from Facebook, so they keep coming, and it's pretty late now. So I'm going to try to make them short, so we don't go over at 9 o'clock. We have a question here that have you ever done two models together, and if it's very challenging? Que si has hecho alguna vez dos modelos al mismo tiempo y que si cuesta trabajo, es muy difícil.
Yes, we've done two, and it more than doubles the difficulty, to keep it short. It's because
and the number of dresses, right?
Yeah, exactly. Trying to get two models' faces correct in the exact same image is definitely a challenge.
Definitely.
Okay, perfect. And a lot of questions about the crocodiles, but they're asking if they don't snap at you or stuff. I don't know what could you answer that one.
Do they snap at you,
Do they-
crocs?
It's always a chance, and that's why we have safety divers that are there to intervene. But they're snappy.
Okay. Well, I think we reached the end. Well, 9 o'clock now, 2 hours. Very entertaining. Thank you for being with us, both of you. Muchas gracias.
It's great to see you, Mel. Great to meet you guys.
Hope we can do another talk with you. It was very interesting. Very.
Awesome, because it was my first time, so I'm glad I didn't annoy or bore anyone.
Oh, it's amazing, amazing.
Thank you.
What do you think, Pedro?
It was, for me, I told you, I am the photographer here in the panel. It was incredible to see the pictures. It's been very entertaining. I mean, we've been here for like about 2 hours, and we can probably keep seeing pictures, you know, but thank you very much for coming. We've been doing a great job on getting, you know, people to give us special talks like yourself on a whole bunch of different themes regarding the sea. Mel, thank you very much again, and we hope to see you soon.
Yep, definitely. Gracias a ustedes y gracias por invitarnos y por darnos esta oportunidad para platicar un poquito de lo que hacemos. Thank you, Ken, for taking the time to speak to us. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
Pedro, una última algo.
I just want to say, Ken and Mel, that was a very good presentation, great pictures. And I can tell by the behavior of the model and the behavior of the animals that you're doing this with full respect. And that's the way to get better results. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Thank you. Great pictures.
I agree.
Pedro's our underwater biologist. That's why.
Absolutely.
Well, gracias, Mel, por estar con nosotros. Ojalá y podamos hacer algún otro tipo de ponencia contigo. La verdad, la gente mucho. Ken, as well, please accept another invitation to maybe do another speech or something. It's very interesting. We love your pictures. Maybe you can leave us your address, or where anyone can write you if they're interested in buying some of your pictures.
Sure. You can contact me on Instagram or Facebook, and my email is super easy. It's info, I-N-F-O, @kenkiefer.com.
I'll post it in both in the websites.
Okay. And if anyone has any other questions that we didn't answer, it'd be great.
We went through all the questions, you know.
We still have some ISO settings and stuff, but
they can email and ask specific settings for each picture, no problem.
Okay, si tienen más dudas o pueden preguntar ahí en el chat y nosotros hacemos que llegue el chat y lo posteamos todo en Facebook, porque pues es que siguen llegando las preguntas y entonces no vamos a acabar nunca. Estuvo súper interesante. Pero pues muchas gracias a los dos. Thank you very much, both of you. And it was a pleasure and I don't know how to call this, super excited to do this.
I enjoyed it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Thank you,
Thank
Pedro. Thank you, Benjamin. Gracias al doctor Antonio, que anda por ahí en Facebook también ayudándonos. Gracias a Luis, que está dando ahorita una ponencia de buceo en cuevas, pero nos verá el jueves aquí con Pedro, con nuestro biólogo. Pedro nos va a dar una ponencia buenísima de los tiburones. Pedro here is going to talk, his next talk is this Thursday, I think, and he's a whole talk about, tell him yourself, Pedro, please.
This next presentation for Thursday is going to be about sharks. We're going to go a little in depth on some details, and we're going to check a few species, a few facts, a few interesting information about sharks. We're going to go into detail. Sometimes we're going to be general, but it's going to be a very different presentation. We have seen this. I'm doing my best to prepare a good presentation for this. So of course you are invited, and we hope you join us.
Okay. Awesome. Nada más para que sepan todos, las versiones que tenemos en inglés las posteo al siguiente día, salen con subtítulos en español por YouTube, así es que si se perdieron algo lo pueden ver en YouTube y solito lo traduce todo. Entonces, for anyone who doesn't speak Spanish, we post everything on YouTube the next day, and you can just put captions and put English, and you can see everything with closed caption.
Ah, I can see if you said bad things, Mel.
Yeah.
A ver si nos traduce el regio de Mel también, ¿no?
Totalmente.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. Bye.
Lo hacemos todos por ustedes y todos por el mar. Gracias. Hasta luego.
Yes.
Good night.
Adiós.
Nos vemos la próxima.